and welcome to my channel. Welcome back to those of you who have been here before, and welcome to those of you who've come over to find out what it's all about. My name is Colette and my channel is Inspiring Life Changes, and the reading that I'm doing today is for the Capricorn full moon taking place on the 24th of June. So I'm going to call this reading Where Are We Now? But before I start, I will try and remember to show you the cards I feel are relevant to go along with this. These are the Moonology cards. We have first of all the Cardinal Moon, which is be bold and make the first move, because it's happening in a cardinal sign, initiating energy, Capricorn. We have the full moon in Capricorn, which is the end of a tough cycle approaches. And one other card that I've taken out from a different set of cards is 10th house energy, which is where it's all taking place collectively, which is the world energy. Which is governed, as you can see there's a clock there, it's governed by Saturn. Saturn is the lord of karma, time. Saturn rules the physical domain. It's the last planet that we can see with our naked eye, so which literally looks like an eye here as well. As I said that, I just kind of saw this as being an eye. Yeah, so Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn energy, but I will talk more about that as I go through the reading, which, as I said, is being called Where Are We Now? And also I was going to say something else, but my mind has just gone completely blank, so if it comes back I will try and remember to say whatever it was, but let's get on with the reading. So the divine masculine sun energy opposes the divine feminine moon energy during the time of the full moon. I was just going to say this is my intuitive interpretation of what is taking place at the time of the full moon in Capricorn. So this full moon is taking place in the cardinal earth sign of the 10th house of Capricorn at 3 degrees 27 on the 24th of June. So if you have any planets or points at the 28 degree of Sagittarius through to the 0-8 degrees of Capricorn, you will experience this full moon energy at its strongest of where are we now? What have we achieved? And what comes next in our lives. Also, those who have anything at the same degrees of Cancer and the last degrees of Gemini will also be feeling the full moon intensity, along with the last two cardinal signs of Libra and Aries. So you may want to check out where these degrees fall for you personally in your own personal chart, your own horoscope chart, and if you're not sure of where that may be, there is a free link in the description box down below for you to go and check that out for yourselves to find out exactly which degree the 3 degrees of Capricorn is, because that's going to be where it will show up for you on a personal level, whereas collectively it's taking place in the 10th house. So wherever the 10th house is for you personally. So the moon and the sun have both recently crossed over the axis mundi, or the world axis, 0 degree 00 point of both Cancer and Capricorn. But it is also found at the start of all the cardinal signs. So all the cardinal signs is the axis mundi, so it's like a cross that goes through Cancer and Capricorn and Aries and Libra. And what this means is that those points have been activated, so we're likely to see something play out to do with this Capricorn energy on the world stage, and it will be coming out within the next fortnight. So interestingly, the Sun is only making one other connection at the time of this full moon, which is a trine to Jupiter at 02 degrees and 9 minutes, which is now retrograde. Jupiter has just turned retrograde, and the moon is also making one other connection, which is a sextile to Jupiter. So they are both connecting with Jupiter and Jupiter alone. Actually, that's not strictly true, because they are also connecting to Chiron, but the biggest energy that they are connected to at this time is Jupiter, out of all the other planets. So although both the Sun and Moon are in the process of starting connections with the healer of our inner wounding, so they're starting to connect with Chiron, but it's not as strong, which the Moon will do later the same day. So the Moon will move forward and make more of a direct connection with Chiron. But the focus of attention will be on the magnifying, emphasizing energy of Jupiter. The Moon in Capricorn in the 10th house is in what's known as detriment or exile, literally meaning it is in opposition of its home sign of Cancer. So it's as far away as possible that it can be from feeling safe and secure at this time. So it's not in a place of emotional strength, which is when we feel at our best to express or release our feelings. So at this time, because we're not feeling strong, we may feel like we want to hold back and hold things in. At this time, we may be feeling vulnerable, sensitive and insecure within ourselves, as the Sun is shining its spotlight and exposing our emotional worries and possible fears from its place in the 4th house energy of Cancer. Capricorn is an energy of ambition and striving to reach the highest of heights. When it comes to success, recognition and status, Capricorn is often driven to become the best of the best at whatever they choose to do. Capricorn is symbolised by the mountain goat that always wants to leap to the next higher ledge, the next vantage point, in order to be able to look down at the rest of us or at the world from the dizzy heights of success. Many Capricorns' aim is to become their own boss or topple the boss from their position, whether that's the CEO of a huge conglomerate, a corporation, a business, or leader in politics and government. More importantly though, Capricorn needs to be the boss of themselves ultimately. As Capricorn's drive and ambition makes them good leaders, other people tend to follow them naturally. And in order to be good at anything, we first need to have disciplined and mastered ourselves through enough to accomplish our goals, which is another thing this Saturn ruled 10th house governs over. Saturn, the harsh taskmaster, however, will also reward those who have put in the time, trouble and energy to learn how to master their domain and make it work for them. The 10th house energy is very practical, down to earth and grounded in reality. It is about getting things done in a very pragmatic and no-nonsense fashion. Investing in time will help to see a big payoff is a Capricorn way of viewing life. Saturn also rules over our physical domain, as it is the final planet we can see with our naked eyes. Another interesting fact about Saturn is it is a ringed planet, which also represents our boundaries and knowing our limitations, as well as the commitment we make to something or somebody, hence the tradition of engagement rings or wedding rings as being symbolic of being bound together. So the 10th house Saturn Capricorn energy also covers things like tradition, the status quo, our status in society, how far we have got on the corporate ladder. Systems within politics and government, the court systems, the men and women in black who adhere to the idea of corporate law, as well as the idea of the matrix within which all of this happens. This full moon in Capricorn is highlighting all of these 10th house issues in one way or another, as the sun shines its spotlight from the 4th house of Cancer. Cancer represents not only our home, both actual as well as emotional, our need for security and our sensitivities. It also symbolises the mother, the divine feminine, and the universal womb, as well as our childhood memories. So we have during this full moon the sun in the traditional feminine, mothering, nurturing, caring, gentle, kind moon energy, while the divine feminine is in the traditional masculine, fathering, stricter, harsher, restrictive, dominant sun energy. Adding to this is all the magnifying, expansive, beneficial and optimistic energy of a recently turned retrograde, now introspective Jupiter in the 12th house of Pisces, which is bringing in a sense of trust and opening ourselves up to a bigger commitment, asking us to take a look at what is important now and what do we wish to prioritise and put our time, energy and emotional investment into, in order to help us grow and move beyond where we have been so far, to reach for higher heights, recognise our insecurities, but don't look back. Stay focused, disciplined and dedicated to the outcome, yet at the same time believe in the process, staying hopeful and optimistic for reaping the rewards of all the hard work we have applied so far. Jupiter has been giving us a little taste of what it will be like when he finally returns to stay in Pisces during the last days of 2021. Having stationed retrograde on the 20th of June at 02 degrees 11, a point you may want to check out in your own personal chart, as there will be a huge emphasis around this area in your personal life, depending which house it falls in. Jupiter is the third of our 5 outer planets to turn retrograde now, joining Pluto and Saturn. Before the end of the month, Neptune will also have joined them. At the time of his stationing, we will be experiencing one of the most positive aspects during the last week of June, as Jupiter will be making an almost grand trine with both the divine masculine Sun at 28 degrees 54 or 29 degrees Gemini, and the divine feminine moon at 22 degrees 50 or 23 degrees in Libra. However, 12 hours later, she will have moved into Scorpio, making this trine more direct and powerful, as the sun headed ever closer to entering Cancer on the 21st of June, summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, winter solstice in the southern, at which point the trine with Jupiter and the moon will be complete. So the trine that is taking place will complete, or has completed, on the 21st, on the solstice day. The sun is going to continue to trine with Jupiter until the 3rd of July, which will bring in those feelings of an expansive and optimistic outlook to our home life and our security within the self. So we ourselves are going to be feeling a lot more optimistic, buoyant, upbeat, and just generally an overall feeling of things are getting better. So I say this is an almost grand trine, as a grand trine consists of a formation between all the signs of the same element, all fire, all earth, etc., being activated together as all three trine each other to create a triangle with angles of 120 degrees. At the early stages of this trine, there are two planets in air signs. The Sun and the Moon are both in air, Gemini and Libra, and one in water, implying the mental, thinking, logical realm is being charged up and is more dominant within us. But this changes to two water and one air as the moon moves into Scorpio later during that day. I'm just going to quickly shove that over a wee bit. That light's not doing what it should be. So it will the balance will shift from being more logical and more kind of thinking in our heads to it being more an emotional feeling space that we'll be in. And we will have experienced that as a sense of ease, a feeling that everything is as it is meant to be, even if that doesn't sit well with the logical mind, because the logical mind is going to be saying, well, you know, this is the reality, but our intuition is going to pick up on things in a different way. And because it's connecting to Jupiter, Jupiter is giving us that sense of ease and comfort in a way, and like a sense of things being as they should be in Pisces. So we are sensing on a much deeper intuitive knowing level regarding our beliefs at this time, and trusting in a higher intelligence working behind the veil for our benefit in the overall bigger picture. So this benevolent Jupiterian 12th house influence will also give us a stronger faith that we are starting to see the light at the end of this dark tunnel. As at the time Jupiter stationed, we also had another trine being created by Neptune, 23 degrees 11, at the other end of Pisces, and more 12th house energy, trining across to Venus at 21 degrees 16 in Cancer. Both of them are making trines with what's known as the part of fortune at 21 degrees 43 in Scorpio, therefore creating a water grand trine. These are beautiful aspects, as both Venus and Neptune represent love, one being our earthly and emotional fulfillment and desires through our personal relationships. The other is the higher feeling of compassion that we can extend to all sentient beings as we begin to recognize our interconnectedness and move away from the idea of everything being separate. The part of fortune was once considered in Arabic astrology to be as important as the ascendant is in Western astrology. Traditionally, it was known as the Arabic part, which symbolises the idea of worldly success and prosperity, which is similar to the Jupiter energy, which is in itself known as the planet of good fortune and good luck. The part of fortune also relates to the physical body, particularly our health and the constitution or strength of our life force energy, depending on where it actually lies in your chart. I believe that it would have been seen as whether you had a strong, healthy life force energy or whether it was a weaker life force energy. A weaker probably would connect you with more kind of illnesses or prone to certain illnesses, shall we say. In Scorpio, it is implying some very deep transformational changes are occurring within the world of how we view success, or those we have been conditioned to want to emulate as role models or see them as being something more than we are, beyond us. Idols that we may judge ourselves against in ways that have influenced who we are. Much is coming to the end of a cycle here, including many things that are no longer working for us as a collective. This is the death of the old, the birth of something new coming into creation. With Neptune in Pisces and Venus in Cancer, this can imply the surrendering to our higher spiritual, energetic needs, the clearing out of our past painful history. As this is a grand water trine and all three of the water signs are being activated, we are being asked to dive deeper into the intuitive realm of our inner knowing, the hidden secret world behind the veil of the unseen. We are being encouraged at this time to not take things at face value as we look deeper and dive further. We will discover a whole different world waiting to be brought to the surface and given recognition and the value we deserve for who we are individually. Which is going to be an ongoing theme, I believe, on some level, because Neptune is in the process of stationing and turning retrograde. So the combination of these two trines on top of each other was giving us a perfect six-pointed star known as the Star of David, but which I personally prefer to call the Merkaba, which is where I believe the Star of David originates from in the first place. It's the Merkaba is an Egyptian word, or three separate words, with each having their own meaning, which create one whole. So the Mer consists of two pyramidal structures, one which is upright and the other which is inverted into the other one. So you get like a triangle within a triangle. So you get that six-pointed star shape. But these pyramidal shapes are not solid, but made from light, which according to ancient Egyptian texts are capable of being created through the use of certain breathing techniques. The Ka is the spiritual body through which we are connected to everything, and the Ba is the physical body, the vehicle for the spiritual body or soul. So this was pretty powerful symbolism at the time of Jupiter standing still in the sky. However, these two interconnected trines were not the only grand trine energies happening at the moment that happened, that Jupiter stationed. We also had a powerful grand trine happening with all the earth signs, as Scorpio's ruler Pluto, who's retrograde at 26 degrees 12 in Capricorn, was still connecting with Black Moon Lilith in an ongoing trine at 26 degrees 51 or 27 degrees in Taurus, both of whom are adding to the intense growing feelings of unease, unrest and righteous rage regarding our establishment and the controlling systems that are being challenged at this time, particularly around anything to do with our bodies and who has the sovereign right over them and our place on this planet. The third energy making this grand Earth trine between Pluto and Black Moon Lilith was something called the vertex, which I have mentioned before briefly. At the time it was sitting at 25 degrees 56 or 26 degrees of Virgo, making this a very tight Earth grand trine, and taking our focus into the physical environment and the density of our bodies. So our focus became about our bodies. The vertex is known as a gateway, an opening up to a moment of fate. Every time the vertex is activated, something beyond our control happens. A matter of destiny and fate begins to unfold. As I have spoken about in my last couple of previous videos, Black Moon Lilith is in a long-lasting trine with Pluto, and is less than 0.1 degree from having just been exact with the planet of transformative deep change coming from within us, which is telling us there is no going back, and which we are seeing more and more of within our kind of political systems around the world at this time. Governments collapsing, things that they thought were going to happen aren't happening. A lot of change, a lot of transformation taking place to do with to do with Pluto being in Capricorn. And as the 10th house energy explains, you know, the 10th house is the world. Whatever is in the 10th house at the time will affect the world. So that being Pluto at this time, and 10th house energy being about governments, political systems, law, all of those things that kind of control and regulate, and the rules, all of that is all being challenged, all being kind of transformed from within. And so at this time, it's also feels like it will be time over the coming weeks and months to use our discernment to go over everything with a fine-tooth comb. As more and more truth becomes revealed, there will also be those needing to keep those truths hidden and buried in the dark as much as they are able, so they can continue to try and hold on to the power that is fast running through their hands, as more people scrutinize and hold up to the light the lies and deceit they have been feeding us. This is the righteous rage of the people, which is also manifesting through the continuing square with Eris at 24 degrees 43 of Aries. So the Pluto and Black Moon Lilith trine and the Pluto Eris square are why we are seeing so much upheaval happening around the world at the moment, why people are out in the streets, up in arms, demanding change, demanding that their rights be heard, that they be listened to. All of this is down to these three very similar kind of energies, very feisty, very changeable, very revolutionary in their own way type of energies. So the female warrior S energy, that is Eris, has been building up between these three very similar energies and is being seen all over the world. It is also, however, the same powers that are trying to force us into a certain very questionable health regime. Virgo rules over health and the alternative therapeutics in particular that have been denied their place in the public domain. So the Virgo energy that I brought in here was where the vertex was at the time of this trining Pluto Black Moon Lilith energy, at the same time that Jupiter stopped in the sky. So she's ruled by both Mercury and Chiron, Virgo. I personally view that as translating to healthy mind and a healthy body, and the connection of the two being paramount to our overall care for ourselves and our earthly needs in a more holistic approach to our bodies, Virgo being an earth sign, and all of those three in earth signs activating that very earth energy. So kind of focus on our bodies and focus on the earth itself. The universe is offering us a chance to shift our perception into a higher, finer, more discerning vibration, to really look at the fine print, as the devil will always be found in the details, as all Virgos are aware. So just as Jupiter, the planet of magnification and bringer of gifts, stands still in the sky, we had 3 separate trines being made. One that was a grand water trine, one was a grand earth trine, and one which started off mostly air, but transformed as the moon moved into Scorpio as more water, implying an energy of more emotion than logical thinking that was then grounded into our reality through the earth energy. More interestingly, and much more importantly, was the fact that all those 3 trines together made up an incredibly rare 9-pointed star. Here is a quote from the epistle Greek for message to the Galatians, who were a Celtic race who lived around Anatolia or Ankara in modern Turkey, because I looked up what does it mean, what does a 9-pointed star mean, and there's not a lot of information relating to how I would understand it out there. So what I did find, as I was saying, was from this epistle message. So it says, but for the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. So it's kind of all of those, combination of all those characteristics, I suppose, or I don't know how else you would express them, but it's like each one of those is one of those 9-pointed star kind of points, if you like, because there's 9 of them. So the number 9 is the last of the single digits, and in numerology from that point all numbers except the master numbers 11, 22 and 33 are returned to single digits. Therefore, the number 9 is said to be the higher vibrational frequency of all the single numbers. Number 9 represents great mental and spiritual realizations, understandings or epiphanies. The number 9 also marks the end of a cycle, spiritual development or higher learning, which is all very Jupiter energy as well. Jupiter's all about higher learning, spiritual development, as is Pisces in many ways as well, which is where Jupiter is retrograde for the rest of July until he moves back into Aquarius. So the culmination point, and also number 9 is the culmination point, which is also a major aspect of this full moon energy as well. All full moon energy is about releasing, culminating something that has ended, before we move towards the next level of experience on our journey, spiraling ever upward. So this amazing energy is followed up the next day on the 21st of June, summer or winter solstice, depending where you are on the globe, when the Sun entered Cancer. In the UK, that took place at 4:33 hours. The Sun and the Moon both continued to trine with Jupiter, and its extra powerful benevolent attributes were all being magnified at that time due to its stationary position. But the Sun and Moon were starting to separate from their trine and getting ready to oppose each other on the 24th. On the 22nd, Mercury stationed direct at 1 a.m. UK time in the morning, which just so happened to be the same time as Jupiter, and coincidentally brought with it the return of the 9-pointed star. This time, however, it was slightly different, as Jupiter and the Sun trined the part of fortune at 0 degrees 19 in Scorpio, while Neptune and Venus trined the Moon, now at 22 degrees Scorpio. Yet another coincidence with Pluto and Black Moon Lilith occurred with the vertex. As the vertex whips around the zodiac really quickly, returning to the same sign every 24 hours, but moving on a degree or so. forward each time it does so. So it doesn't always come back to the same spot. It will move forward slowly, gradually. So it just again so happened to be at 27 degrees Virgo, creating the same trine we saw previously. So that in itself is quite a phenomenal event for both Jupiter and Mercury standing stationary. There just so happened to be these three trines being created at the same time, creating this 9-pointed star. So this means we had one Earth and two water trines exact, because Cancer had now moved into, sorry, the Sun had now moved into Cancer, so the Cancerian energy was also being activated at that time exactly. So they were grand trine energies, all three grand trine energies this time, which was giving our emotional feeling and intuitive bodies a greater awareness. But with the earth energy, we could once again ground it into our physical environment, which after all the mutable energy we have been in for the last month of everything feeling very ungrounded, uncertain and very changeable, it is a huge shift. Especially as at the time of this full moon in Capricorn, we have 5 energies in the initiating, pushing forward cardinal signs, 3 of them being our inner world planets, the moon, sun and Venus. So we want to do, we want action, we want something to happen at this time. So at the time Mercury stationed direct at 16 degrees 9 in mutable Gemini, he was making a trine with Saturn at 12 degrees 49 retrograde in the fixed sign of Aquarius. When any planets station, it adds emphasis to their energy. Mercury is mostly all about communication, information, data, learning. He is known as the messenger of the gods and goddesses for a reason. Saturn is the lord of karma, actions and consequences. He wants to restrict and limit. In retrograde, he is making us reevaluate where we have reached with our personal drive and ambition. More importantly, he is asking, how did we reach that place? What standards, if any, did we hold ourselves to? What were our intentions behind our drive for status and recognition? Because Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, the full moon is in Capricorn, Saturn's energy is also being kind of highlighted at this time. As Saturn is also the dealer of karmic retribution, dictated by the choices we choose to make, our lives can change in a heartbeat. And in Aquarius, the sign of the collective and humanity, this is being played out through those who want to benefit and enhance the life of those who share this planet, regarding the truth and information that has been kept restricted from us at a certain level of their hierarchical system, and those who want to keep this information and truth for themselves, to better only the lives of those they deem worthy of knowing it. Which for them means those high enough up in their hierarchical pyramid. Again, a very kind of Capricorn, Saturn, 10th house energy of kind of hierarchy. Saturn, however, is still square with Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius at 13 degrees of Taurus, and these two giants just finished an exact connection, the second of 3 squares on the 14th of June, while Mercury and Saturn were still trining, during which time there has been a huge amount of truth being revealed concerning many different topics. So Saturn wants to stop things coming out and being revealed to us, and Uranus is pushing for more and more truth and information to be put out there, and Mercury is kind of adding to that energy as well with this trine from Saturn, or trine to Saturn. Mercury is kind of allowing it, and it feels as though you're kind of allowing it to come out in bits and pieces, like we're having to kind of piece it together for ourselves as well, to work out what is and what isn't truth and disinformation. And so Taurus is our environment, our earth, our values, our understanding based on how the physical world works, as chronologically it relates to our youngest days of discovering our personal world around us and the solidity we live in, both within our actual body and outside it. Uranus in Taurus is here to change all these preconceived ideas of things always staying the same, especially as Saturn is no longer meeting up with Jupiter in the solidness of Earth signs anymore, as it has done for the last 200 years, apart from one exception. Mercury is about to traverse the same ground he has already covered twice. So this is like being very thorough before making any decisions. We may find that what we thought was already decided and put to rest will return again, in order for us to be completely sure about what we have been thinking, and if we have been looking at something from both sides and not being able to come to a conclusion. Now will be the time when we will have more clarity and understanding in order to make the right choice for ourselves. Any resistance, blockages or restrictions which Saturn will have been putting in place as Mercury moves forward away from Saturn's influence, we may come to recognise as actual these blockages and these restrictions that have actually been trying to help us to not be too hasty with the process of the choices that we've had to make, choices that are going to last well into our future. Because Mercury is also in Gemini, very much about choice, decisions between two different things. So we may also find ourselves going over the same thing more than once, more than twice even. But Mercury is going to be moving forward now, so things are going to be less confusing in a way, less kind of like should I, shouldn't I, like two choices, not knowing which one to go with type of energy. That's kind of clearing out, and it will become easier. So everything is fast changing around us, as Uranus represents the freedom to be able to make our own decisions, while Saturn represents the established idea of control over the mass population. Saturn in retro, however, is not as strong as Uranus is direct, who is also in a semi-sextile with Mercury when he's stationed direct, adding some extra support to the shock and rock. Sorry, extra support to the freedom of speech, truth and information that is coming in a massive tsunami that is going to shock and rock our world, particularly those who are still buying into the propaganda as the real story. Another thing, as Mercury moves forward, much more information is going to come through, much more truth, much more data, facts. But again, because it's going to be so much, there could be this kind of feeling of overwhelm. But we may, like I was saying, be more clear about it now. We may have more clarity as we've kind of been able to think things through on a deeper level. So yeah, it's massive truth bomb or massive tsunami, which we will see this becoming even more profound as Neptune also joins the retrograde gang and stations at 23 degrees 11 at that same magical time of 1 o'clock in the morning. So that's all three, Jupiter, Mercury and Neptune, all stopped at 1 o'clock in the morning in the UK. The third planet to do so in June, while remaining sextile to Pluto at 26 degrees retrograde and trine to Venus at 27 degrees, once again giving an extra emphasis to these energies of bringing things up from the underworld for them to be exposed to the light, to be evaluated by our personal value systems, along with our ability to discriminate and disseminate what we do value based on what feels right for us. So the messages that we're going to be putting out there, it's like, if it doesn't feel right for us, it's like saying trust your instincts, your own knowing, because that's what is right for you. It's not necessarily right for everybody, but how it feels for you is right for you. So as with the other two planets who stationed, Neptune also has a rare pattern being formed at the time, although he's not directly involved himself. Once more we have an Earth trine with both Pluto and Black Moon Lilith, only this time it is the part of Fortune who has taken the place of the vertex at 27 degrees Virgo. Check out that degree because it's been activated quite a few times now, so it may have played a part in your day-to-day life. However, slap bang in the middle of Black Moon Lilith and the part of Fortune, we have Venus at 27 degrees of Cancer. And this is creating a perfect kite pattern with the tail end being Pluto, who is opposing Venus, which is creating the head energy. A kite pattern is yet another energy of fate and destiny, and the sky at this time certainly seems to be sending us plenty of subtle signals that we are in that time right now. Venus in Cancer is giving us a sense of extra sensitivity, along with the Sun that's also in Cancer. But Venus is at the very end of Cancer. She's about to move out of Cancer and into Leo. So we've been feeling this extra sensitive kind of energy, and now the Sun is moving in, and the Sun is basically going to go across all of that energy again to kind of reactivate it and bring it back for us to once again feel it on a deeper level. The Sun is going to be shining his light onto the things that we may not want to look at. Again, childhood painful memories that may have become blockages somewhere in our psyche, which we have carried with us. Pluto in Capricorn is saying that we have grown up now. Those memories are not who we are today. And with the trine to Neptune, it is saying it's okay to release them and let go of that energetic imprint that is still affecting us on a habitual subconscious level, which could come through as a need for safety and security from other people, whether that is always having to be in a relationship with someone or feeling the need to protect ourselves from the potential pain being with someone could cause. As with all things relating to Pluto, opposing Venus is a time of deep transformational change, adjustment and growth, as well as a time of bringing closure to what is no longer viable for our personal well-being and future advancement. Mars, who has been in Leo since the 11th of June, has at the time of this full moon in Capricorn reached 8 degrees and 9, and he's feeling more fired up and ready for action. Mars does not do well in Cancer, but in fellow fire sign of Leo, he is strong, courageous and dynamic, and maybe a tad over-enthusiastic, not knowing when to hold back. However, Mars began an opposition with Saturn in the later hours of the 21st of June, which could have come in strongly as a blockage to something we thought was going ahead. that we had high hopes of happening, which Saturn suddenly put the roadblock up on. This could have led to feelings of frustration, anger, and a sense of determination to try anyway. Both Saturn and Mars are in fixed signs, so both are going to be equally stubborn to get their own way here, which could end up even more frustrating. As Mars moves forward the following day, he's then going to make a square with Uranus in yet another fixed sign, Taurus. This puts Uranus slap bang in the middle of this tension, basically creating a T-square. So we've got Mars one end, Saturn the other end. Saturn and Uranus are still squaring each other as they have been all year, and they will continue to do so right up until the end of the year, and they meet at the last and third square energy, I believe, is on the 24th of December, so Christmas Eve, the joy, the fun, and that will continue through into 2022 as well, because they're not going to separate that quickly. So yeah, Uranus is like slap bang in the middle of this energy, this tension between the two of them. And we are likely to see something break through that uranium energy as well. Something is going to snap, something has to snap. That amount of tension between Mars and Saturn and Uranus kind of adding that extra shock, electricity, kind of fiery, well, not fiery so much, but kind of electrifying, shall we say, energy is kind of going to make something happen, which may come as a shock. So as Mars continues moving into Leo, this T-square energy is going to become even more intense, with the desire to break free and to create more freedom in our lives getting ever stronger. Equally as strong will be the willpower of those restricting our lives at this time, as Saturn also represents authority in all its various forms. The opposition between Mars and Saturn will reach its climax on the 1st of July. Sorry, that light has just changed again. Just let me pull that. I don't know if that's going to make any difference. Maybe just move over a wee bit. Slightly better. So it's going to reach its climax on the 1st of July at 12 degrees and 20. So Mars and Saturn are going to connect exact at 12 degrees 20 on the 1st of July. We will experience the build up to it from the full moon onwards. Then on the 4th of July, very significant, we will experience the full tightness of this Mars-Uranus square, as they both meet at 13 degrees 54, or 14 degrees. And what makes this even more powerful at this time is the moon, which symbolises the people, the collective, the soul, will be conjunct Uranus at the time, the exact time of this Mars Uranus square. But Mars is still in opposition to Saturn as well. So the moon is going to act like an amplifier for our emotions, pushing us to break free and awaken with the assistance of the shocking, electrifying, revolutionary, future-directed energy coming from planet Uranus, which is saying, don't look back, focus on what is emerging. Another feminine energy connected to all these very masculine planets at the time is the planet Venus, ruler of Taurus, which is of course where Uranus is. So Venus from the 2nd of July is going to be bringing her own soothing balm to Saturn, as she's also going to be squaring him. even if he doesn't want it. She will be opposing Saturn and creeping up slowly on Mars, who she will also be conjunct with on the 13th of July. So Venus is going to bring in the kind of softer energy, even though there's this real tension going on. Venus is going to kind of bring in this this more subtle, and with the moon there as well, in many ways it's kind of like it's going to be a more subtle, unexpected, but maybe not as harsh as it could be energy. So yeah, she's also creeping up on Mars for the first conjunction that the two will have had since 2019, and that's going to be taking place on the 13th of July. But before then, she will directly oppose Saturn, exact, and square Uranus. But more on that next time, because that will be in the next astrology. So lastly, we have Chiron, the healer of our inner wounding, is making squares with both our masculine and feminine vibrational frequencies during this full moon, which, as I explained earlier, are sitting in their opposite energies. Chiron is sitting at 12 degrees 44 of the initiating cardinal sign of Aries. He's also making a very helpful trine to Mars, the ruler of the sign he is in. There is something being healed here on a very fundamental level of our experiences from birth and the parenting we received at this time, which feels like it has a lot to do with our generational stories, especially around the father and the idea of softness and gentleness being viewed as signs of weakness, which also affects the female psyche, who has over the decades had to emulate the masculine in areas of work, success, business, in order to achieve recognition. While the subtler, nurturing, caring, loving, kinder side of the female psyche has become, and remains so today, undervalued and under-recognised, especially within the family setting. I've spoken of this before now, but this time I feel very strongly it is stemming from the Victorian era, when a lot of damage was done. Through the Victorian belief systems, which they took out into the world and managed to spread everywhere. In my opinion, the Victorians are responsible for creating so much distortion in our vibrational psyches that we are still trying to heal ourselves from them today. One example being the pink for girls and blue for boys nonsense. And that's just a very small example of some of the things that the Victorians have kind of created. They are responsible for so much, and I do really feel strongly that we are still in a way kind of trying to drag ourselves out of that Victorian era, that it had such a huge effect on our psyche in the world, the way that that children were treated in particular. So like the whole kind of like, you know, seen and not heard thing as well as a child, where you were, you know, you weren't allowed to express and you were kind of dressed up as a mini adult. You weren't kind of seen as being a child in your own right, in a way. So they are also, however, very much a part of the governmental systems, rules and regulations which have grown up around us today in a corporate owned and run society, which we are needing to release ourselves from and heal our ancestral generational family woundings and stories in the process. Mars in Leo is giving us the strength and courage to be able to conquer and overcome those conditionings, patterns, habitual repetitive mistakes that we make without necessarily knowing why. So Mars trining this Chiron energy is kind of adding the courage that is needed on some level, with the Sun in Cancer bringing up all this stuff. It's like working together to kind of help heal these wounds, but first of all we have to kind of go to places we don't necessarily want to visit. And for me, I still very strongly believe that a lot of that generational stuff that we're still living through today comes from that Victorian time, when they did so much damage, kind of sending people to work over in Australia and things like that. Just a lot of damaged people came out from the Victorian era. The whole workhouse thing and all of that stuff. The Sun in Cancer and the Moon in Capricorn are almost acting like a mirror of these divine essences of who we are internally, both male and female, and what we show to the outer world based on our acceptance and balancing of these two eternal forces of nature within us. That's another thing I feel as well that was very much a Victorian way of life, was this big separation of the masculine and the feminine energies. Like women were a particular way, men were a particular way, and I believe that strongly it was, a lot of that was down to the division put there by this Victorian period that we lived through. So here are the Sabian symbols for the 3 degrees of Capricorn, which I finally like to read. And we have 3rd degree being a human soul in its eagerness for new experiences seeks embodiment. So the keynote is a powerful yearning for whatever will increase the scope and depth of one's contacts with other living beings. And it says, one wonders what the clairvoyant saw and said to the recorder of this symbol. How did she visualize a human soul? Or, as Mark Edmund Jones recorded it, it's being receptive to growth and understanding. What is implied in the position of this symbol seems to be the strong drive in every human consciousness or will toward new experiences, whether they are constructive or destructive. Man may grow and gain understanding and wisdom through both types, yet the yearning needs to be tempered by an instinctive evaluation of the end results of the experience. So it's a bit like understanding karmic kind of retribution in a way, like, you know, if you do this, the outcome's likely to be this. That is going to be the end result, and if you keep doing it over and over again, then it's going to become more ingrained into the psyche in a way. So this is the 3rd phase of the 55th fivefold process. It shows us what is behind all uses of power, anabolic or catabolic, and it says a strong desire to prove oneself. And the 3 degrees of Cancer is a man bundled in fur leads a shaggy deer. And the keynote here is the need to overcome stagnation and cold during trial of endurance. This rather enigmatic symbol has suggested an exploration in Arctic regions, but it seems more relevant to see it in simply the difficult phase imposed by the new allegiance upon the reorientated consciousness. In India, the deer was the symbol of Brahma, the creative god. The antlers represent the extension of the mind power located in the head. And we'll just add as well that the deer or the stag was very symbolic in pagan culture as well, as being like the lord of the forest. The new path may lead to cold regions requiring insulation from harsh circumstances. There may even be a desire to escape from new responsibilities. The will leads the mind on toward the spiritual north of the soul. This is the third stage in the 19th fivefold sequence. A period of trials is implied. The focalized mind may seek to escape its limits by venturing forth toward an idealized goal. The North Star, perhaps. This represents a testing of the will. And the North Star, of course, actually represents like the North Node, where we are heading, what we are needing to incorporate into our lives, as opposed to the South Node, which is all about releasing and letting go. So it's kind of focus. The North Star is that focus of our attention. So I'm going to leave the reading there. No, I'm not. I'm actually going to leave that part of the reading there, and then I'm going to read these cards which I pulled earlier. So the first one here is, your trust in oneness is what makes you complete. Do the work that is your destiny. Then we have, as you spiritually come of age, you will come to realize that your pain and your experiences have made you grow stronger. Very apt for Capricorn energy. Maturing, mastering. And it is imperative you have a stillness within. You cannot go forward without this. So, those are the three cards, the three messages. And that is where I'm going to finish the reading today and say thank you very much for listening to me. If you have found anything of any interest or have learnt anything from this astrology read, could you please thumbs it up for me, because that really helps to grow my channel. Just the more likes it gets, which is a really simple thing to do, just press that little button there. It tells the algorithms that my video has been liked, that you have liked it, and that you think that other people may want to watch it as well, which is always a big, huge help. And thank you very much to those of you who do thumbs up my videos. I really do appreciate it. And thank you very much to those of you who share my videos. I really do appreciate that as well. And also to those of you who have subscribed, thank you very much for doing so, because again, it helps to get my channel recognized and out there in the bigger YouTube world. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please could you also do that as well. Again, just trying to grow my channel at this time. I do all the tarot readings for the sun signs. I do the new moons and the full moons. Both the tarot read and an astrology read will both be put out there. And so with that being said, wishing you all the best for this full moon energy, and please take really good care of yourselves, and hopefully I will see you again soon.